Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. And I'm going to revisit the subject I talked about earlier today, which is, again, 5 steps to channel your higher self. So, before I get into that, let me acknowledge something. So, what I'm about to say is my experience with myself, as well as if I look at my experience working with clients and apprentices and what I imagine, because before I make videos, part of what I do is I try to tap into other people's thoughts and feelings. I try to imagine what it is that people are trying to work through. The thing that I want to do more than anything is give you practical advice that you can perform, that you can do. I don't want to just talk about things. That's just the way that I am. I'm all about practical action and getting things done and doing things that work. So it's really easy for me in a cavalier way to just tell you in a couple of words what I do when I know what it's like to be in a position where it doesn't work. Let me just give you an example here. Again, using a comment somebody left on the channel, which actually, my first reaction to it is to get impatient and but trying to again think about what would my higher self, my Mahadeva self say. Trying to have compassion as well. So hang on a sec. Let me get to the comment here. So one of the things that I told you to do earlier today, one of the steps was to start from a place of gratitude. And the reason why that's one of the many reasons why that's a good step to do is because it brings you into the present moment, which is very important. You have to be aware of all of your thoughts and all of your feelings. That's what I say enlightenment is. Enlightenment is nothing more than having all of your thoughts, all of your feelings without any judgment, and then taking action that is helpful to you and to all of conscious awareness. And that action might be completely contrary to what you have been used to doing or what your impulse is telling you to do. So gratitude, being in the moment, gratitude is assuming that you're not happy where you are. If you're perfectly happy where you are, please feel free to stop watching this video and go be happy. There's no reason for you to watch this video unless you are working to be happier, to have more success, more health, more love, more spiritual awareness, to be further away from negativity and pain. There's no other reason to be watching my channel so if you're at that place, then it's helpful for you to learn how to be in this present moment. Because when you're in pain, when you're unhappy, when you're unfulfilled, when you're uncomfortable for any reason, our natural reaction is to want to be out. So when you don't know what to do, then you start thinking about, if only this were happening, if only that were happening, or you start thinking about how you don't like this and how you don't like that. And so it's different to start from a place of gratitude. So there's a comment here. Somebody left a comment and said, I tried gratitude, doesn't work for me either. And, my first response, just me as a person, is that's all you got out of the video? That out of that entire video, the only thing you got out of it was to focus on the one thing that you say didn't work for you? And what does that mean it didn't work for you? Does that mean that you wanted to win the lottery and you tried being grateful for 30 seconds and you didn't win the lottery? What does that mean it doesn't work for you? So I mean, that's just me, where I go with that. But when I go into my more compassionate self, I then, for somebody to say that must be a very sad, desperate place. Because if you can't even be grateful, if you can't find anything to be grateful about, that's bad. That's a really sad place to be. I mean, I can imagine that. If you're in a foxhole and both your legs are cut off and you're bleeding to death and you're watching your children being eaten by an alligator, and you're not going to die immediately. You're going to have to suffer for 3 days before you finally die. It's going to be hard to be grateful at that point because there's really not a whole lot to be grateful for. But that's what that comment sounds like to me. I tried gratitude. It doesn't work for me. Things are that bad. There's literally not one positive thing that you can focus on. And obviously, if you hear me talk about it like that, obviously that's not true. This person has access to a computer that has internet. They obviously have access to their fingers, or to use their thumbs if they're using their phone. Their heart is beating. They're able to breathe. Their eyes are working. They can see. I mean, there's a bunch of things that are working for them. Add to that previous example, your legs are cut off, you're in a ditch somewhere, and you're watching your children getting eaten by alligators, and then you lose your eyeballs, and then you have difficulty breathing, but you won't die. Obviously, none of those things are happening, but that's what it must feel like. And I've been there. I know what that feels like. I've been in that place where objectively, that, I can't tell you how many times that's been the best I could do. Where I ask myself these basic questions and I say, do I have a roof over my head? Yep. Do I have food? Yep. Am I healthy at the moment? Yep. But I didn't know where my rent was going to come from tomorrow. I can remember being in the hospital after having surgery because I had a kidney stone that was so big they actually had to surgically get it. And it wasn't like they cut me open. They climbed up my urethra with instruments and grabbed onto it. I mean, and I woke up with tubes, big tubes that looked like they were this big, one specifically coming out of a very small little hole. And it was a very shocking, horrible place to be. And I remember sitting there, waking up in that hospital room and looking around. I can still see it in my mind as I was looking around. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to complain again. If I can be somewhere where I'm in a warm bed and I don't have tubes coming out of me, where there's blood on the sheets, and I'm not in a whole horrific amount of pain, I'm never going to complain again. And that has served me. And every time since then, when I've had no money, I didn't know where I was going to get rent. Nothing seemed to be going the way I wanted it to go. I would stay in the moment and I would go, do I have a roof over my head? Yep. Do I have food? Yep. Do I have clothes? Yep. Am I breathing? Yep. Am I heart beating? Yep. Then whatever my problems are, they will be there tomorrow, because it's usually at night, right? You're lying, on the couch or in your bed at night, and you're starting to worry about all this stuff. And that's when I started saying to myself, whatever your problems are, they'll be there in the morning. Might as well just enjoy, watching some television and go to sleep and relax and wake up tomorrow and worry about it. So this is really important, to stay in the present moment. Staying in the present moment really gives you an ability to know what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And if you can stay conscious and aware of what you're thinking and what you're feeling, then you can, I'm telling you, you can change everything. You can change the whole world. But if you're not even able to muster up even the slightest bit of gratitude, it's going to be challenging. So, I've got some new notes here. So, the five steps to connect with your future self. So, again, my future self is my spiritual name, Mahadeva. And it's me, but it's me, depending on how you want to look at it, it's me in the future after I've achieved enlightenment, fulfillment, self-awareness, etc., etc. And I no longer need to, or I'm no longer choosing to reincarnate. And that being lives in the nexus of all timelines. So every single timeline, all infinite timelines, he is conscious of all of them. And he is in a state of total bliss and total happiness and total peace and in complete connection to himself. Why is that important? What I've learned, I can remember this from the experience I had when I was 7 years old and I left my body and I went to the light that all the neo-Gnostics try and run away from. I was in that light. And it was the most orgasmically blissful, joyful experience of just myself. It was just an explosion of being, of total fulfillment. And there wasn't anything or anybody else. It was just me and that light. And I've come to find out that that light was in fact me. It was my soul. So that's what I think of when I think of my future self. That he is in that state of just being in that orgasmic, blissful, unending experience of the light of the self. So how do I channel that? How do I tap into that? I'm still learning, and as I continue to learn, I will give you more tips as I go on. So, first thing you need to understand is that it is a cooperation. So, what this person who left this comment may not understand, and I'm now understanding it a little more that I'm thinking about it, is that being in the state of gratitude is a state of cooperation. It's a state of cooperation with your immediate circumstances. If you hate absolutely everything, and don't get me wrong, listen, it is perfectly okay to have things that you don't like. It's perfectly okay for there to be things that are unacceptable, that need to change. You know, you need to move out of your home. You can't do it right now this second, but you know you have to do that. You need to get out of a relationship. You need to get a new job. You need to get healthier. You need to be more prosperous. There's all kinds of things that are not acceptable the way they are that you must change. That doesn't mean that you have no gratitude for anything. Because the only way to get out of your present situation is to make use of the tools that you have. If you don't have any tools, then you are truly screwed. And that's really the mindset of people who off themselves. People who off themselves because they really honestly believe that there's no way out. And I love this definition of depression. You know, a lot of people think depression is being sad. No, you can be extremely sad. You can be like totally broken with sadness and not be depressed. In fact, the clinical definition of depression is that you're numb, that you're not aware of any of your feelings. You just kind of feel listless and you don't know what to do next, but you don't really have any feelings. That's depression. You know, people talk to you and you're like, what? I'm sorry, did you say something? That's depression. Being really sad, that's not depressed. That's just having feelings. But the best definition I heard for depression was not being able to imagine a future for yourself. So in order to get out of where you are, you have to have something that you can look towards that excites you. And the way that you're going to get out of it is to make use of the tools that you have, whatever little tools that they are. You think about, some of the people who've escaped prisons. Some people who have made prison escapes have been incredibly ingenious and just unwilling to take no for an answer. I mean, the tiniest little spoon, it might take them years to dig through, the wall of their cell and get out. But they won't stop. So they got to have some hope towards something. And they're making use of whatever tools they have. A spoon, whatever. So if you're in a state where things aren't where you want them to be, gratitude is important. Doesn't mean you have to feel happy. Gratitude is not an emotion. Gratitude is an attitude. Oh God, that sounds so horrible. How cheesy. The attitude of gratitude. But it's true. And it is a conscious choice looking around. What do I have available to me that works? My heart is beating. My lungs are working. I'm not dying of COVID. I've got clothes. I got food. I've got, what else? You might have a lot of things I don't have right now. You got family members that love you. You've got friends. I'm a monk. I don't have any of that stuff. You may have more than I do in terms of looking for gratitude. So this person has already decided. This person in that instance has no open-mindedness, has no flexibility of thinking. Because if you don't like where you're at, then obviously what you've been doing hasn't worked for you. What you have is a result of what you've been doing. And if that doesn't work, then you need to be willing to do something differently. And not knowing what to do is fine. But being unwilling to even think about how could I possibly do something differently? And I'm thinking of the Nauthi's room. The Nauthi's room. So the Nauthi's room, if you've seen it, it looks like this. And this is actually two sticks rubbing together. Two sticks rubbing together. Why? To create fire. Nauthi's means need, means constriction. It doesn't mean a block, doesn't mean an end. It means that you are in a state where you need something different, something drastically different. And you think about the person who came up with the idea of rubbing two sticks together to create fire. Is that the first thing that pops into anybody's mind? Rub two sticks together and you can create fire? And in fact, it's not just rubbing two sticks together. It's taking a stick and then making a little like bow thing with another little twig and then some kind of, whatever it is, you find some plant fiber and you roll it up and you make a thread out of it and then you put that in there and you wrap it around and then you do this, with the thing and you put it on another little piece of wood and then you get a little piece of moss. Somebody really, and those are things that anybody living in nature has. Those things are all around them. And they figured it out. They figured out how to do that. So somebody who's in the position of inventing how to make fire, because we didn't discover it. We didn't discover fire. We knew what fire was. Somebody said, I'm going to figure out a way. And everybody else in the tribe said, yeah, good luck with that. I'm going to dive inside the carcass of this rotting hippopotamus. You figure out the rubbing two sticks together. They laughed at him until they saw him create fire out of nothing. And that knowledge, that technology completely shifted the evolution of the of the human race up to the next level. And if you don't think that guy didn't become king, he sure as hell did. That guy was king because he could make fire out of nothing. And then they could cook food, which gave them the ability to get bigger brains. They could stay warm. So many things they could do with that, the first technology that was ever created, fire. So this is what gratitude, choosing to have gratitude is like that. It means you're willing to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm doing that's not working for me? I've got to figure out something else. All right. So this is a cooperation. Number one. Number one is being able to, and again, we're talking about tapping into your future self. Because the reason why I'm talking about this is because as I thought about it, you know, for somebody to ask that very understandable question, at least if I were to ask that question, it would feel like there's a block, right? Because, you know, that assumes that there's a block between you and your future self. If I walked up to you and said, hey, why don't you just tap into your future self? And you go, oh, that's a good idea. That would mean that you knew how to do it. So if somebody says, how do I do it? And I'm saying, tap into your future self. Oh, yeah, I don't know how to do that. It means that there's this block. And that's an uncomfortable place to be. So understanding that there isn't like you all of a sudden, you know, make something happen and oh, the angels sing and your future self arrives and downloads all this information. Obviously, if that were the case, it would be happening all the time to everybody. So we have to be in a state of understanding that this is a cooperation. You have to create a relationship. And if your future self is in that higher frequency, then you have to be willing to change your frequency. You have to be willing to change. And so that is cooperation. When you're with somebody else, you cooperate with them. So the number one thing to understand is it's a cooperation. It's not forced on you. It's not something that happens to you. It is something that you must seek out. And then you must seek to align yourself and have that attitude of cooperation. So you're wondering, how do I do that? I'm just giving you things to meditate on, because just the thought of being grateful for what you have automatically puts you in a state where you can be reached. When you think about being in a state of cooperation with your future self, just that, the willingness to do that. I don't know how to do that, but I'm willing to do that. Boom, you're already in a different state. You're already more accessible. Number two, connecting with your future self. You have the seeds of your future self in you now. So it's not something foreign to you. So the question of how do I tap into my future self? Tap into what is best in you now. You know, it really amazes me for myself. I'm talking about myself now. It amazes me how strong and how prevalent all of my narrative is. Because, you know, I mean, I don't know how you see me, how you look at me. You know, there's a lot of there's your own projection, there's the transference, there's the natural thing that happens with teachers and students where, you know, the ascended masters are working through me. I may or may not know it. You see them, who knows what. Or maybe you project onto me negative things, or maybe you see me for who I am. I don't know. But it amazes me how my narrative is running all the time. And left to myself, my narrative is beating me up. So somebody asked me about, you know, negative thinking. So I do understand that, because I still deal with that. That's still part of the programming in my head. Until sometimes I stop and I go, now let me just stop and take a look at myself here objectively. And when I do, I realize I work my ass off. I work my ass off for this channel. I work my ass off for my health. I'm generous. I mean, I give a huge amount of my time away for free. I give a huge amount of my knowledge and my technologies away for free. If I'm in a relationship, I really devote myself to the other person. I spend just a huge amount of time trying to be loving and kind, and so those are things that I don't realize about myself, because that narrative, all that crap that my brother used to say, all the garbage that I went through as a kid, that still plays in the background. And so these things cloud the reality that I have within me, those things that I admire about my future self. Those things that I just said are good about me are things I like about him. And when I am feeling a connection with Mahadeva, the Ascended Master, I feel those things, because those are things within me. So now imagine for a second, stop imagining being yourself and imagine being your future self and looking back. The other thing behind asking the question, and it's because I relate to it, asking the question, how do I tap into my future self? It means that you don't feel a connection to a more perfect vibration of yourself. And that's what I've understood. When I'm in that place, when I don't feel a connection, when I don't understand how to get there, it means that I'm running on the past narrative that was fed into me. So you have the seeds within you already. So you can choose, even if you can't tap into your future self, the seeds of that perfect vibration, the most happy, the most fulfilled aspect of yourself is within you. So if you seek within, you can find that. And then, like a seed, you water it and it'll grow. So imagine your present self. This is number 3, another third tip of connecting with your future self. Imagine your present self right now. Imagine yourself in a really good mood. Think of something that puts you in a good mood, that makes you feel happy. I'm getting to that stage in my life where those stupid puppy and kitten, rescued, puppy not commercials, those rescued puppy videos, they really get to me. Because I feel so strongly how important it is to give love and to give empathy to beings that are hurting. And so when I do that, I'm always in a happier place. I'm always in a more loving state. I'm always in the idea that makes me happy to see beings that are in pain and lonely, and then they find love and they're happy. And it's really great to see those, because animals are so they don't have all that stuff going on. They're so easy, they can heal and adapt so well. You can put them in a cage for 6 years, and then within a couple of weeks of being in a new home, they're just happy as hell, and they don't even know that they ever had any negativity whatsoever. That's really wonderful. So imagine whatever it is that puts you in a really good mood. And then analyze, how do you act when you're in a good mood, as opposed to when you're fearful or angry or insecure or whatever it is that your negative issues are. And then think about that. For me, when I'm in a good place, I'm in a good mood, I'm hopeful, I'm even more fearless, I am more able to tap into my soul desire and to make plans for what I want, and I can write those plans down and take actions toward them. I'm more compassionate towards others. I'm more able to listen to other people's thoughts and feelings directed towards me with even less reactivity. And that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about Mahadeva, is that he is so detached from any internal narrative that he really doesn't have. Wouldn't matter what you said to him, he would. What would happen is he would cock his head and he would go, "That's a really interesting thing that you just said," and he would want to know about you. You would say, "Why? I wonder what it is that made you say that." Oh, you've got that going on. Oh, well, here's how we can fix that. He wouldn't have any associate. He wouldn't respond out of anything about himself. He has no judgment. He has no reactivity. And so there are times, and one of the fun ways to do it is when I get negative comments on my YouTube channels, and then I might get personally offended, and I'll go, okay, hang on. How would Mahadeva react? And I literally just sort of slip into that skin for a little bit. I'd like to be able to stay there forever, but I'm still working on getting rid of my own narrative, just like everybody else does in this three-dimensional world. So imagine your present self in a really good mood. That is how you will be in your future self. The closer you get to your future self, you will be more and more in that good mood space. And it's just an expansion of that. And that becomes your character, as opposed to just, oh, I was in a really good mood that day. Right? So then this is something that I did for me, and you can ask yourself this. Here's the tip number 4. So knowing yourself, who you are, how you function when you're in a good space, you can ask yourself, how would you act? How would you act? Because your future self isn't somebody else, it's you. It's not some other person that you don't relate to, that does things you don't like. It's somebody that is you expanded, that does the things that you like to do, that has your gifts and your strengths expanded even more. So with that in mind, when you're in a difficult position, you can ask yourself, how would you act if you had no fear, no judgment, no insecurity? And then you can analyze, how do I act when I am fearful, when I am judgmental, when I am insecure? You can throw in whatever negative adjective you want. Those are ones that I relate to. So I would ask myself that. I would ask myself, all right, in this situation or in any, hypothetical situation, how would I act if I had no fear, no judgment, and no insecurity? And usually an answer comes, especially if you ask it like that, like a hypothetical. And a hypothetical, you can bring that. I've done it. There have been times when I've been in the moment, and instantaneously I'll stop, wanting to be more like Mahadeva, and I'll ask myself, okay, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling fearful, I'm feeling insecure, I'm feeling whatever. How would I act if I didn't have those feelings? How would I act if I had just pure compassion? If I had pure self-confidence? How would I act in this moment? You can use, again, whatever emotion is applicable to the specific moment at hand. And what's interesting is you'll come up with a response. You'll know how you would do it. In fact, I'll give you an example of a brilliant experience of this. I was in way back when I was married, and we were in couples therapy. And I don't remember the question, but the therapist asked me a question of something, and I said, I don't know. And he goes, okay, good. Now, if you did know, what would the answer be? And I had an answer. Oh, that was a wonderful trick. It's okay, so you don't know? All right. But if you did know, it was great. And you're really doing that. So it's really important to understand that becoming your future self is an action that you can take. It's a decision. Everything is a choice. The choice to that the person says gratitude doesn't work for them. That's a choice. You've never experienced that. You don't think you have the experience of knowing how to take gratitude and make it open doors for you. Then make the decision that you are going to make that work for you. It's a decision. It's a decision when you decide something doesn't work. It's a decision when you decide you are going to make something work for you. Number 5. Now, be in your present self, all right, and look back to yourself much younger, at a time when you were really challenged, when you were much younger and you were really challenged. Look back at that. And imagine, how you felt, and probably, a time when you made some decisions and some actions that ended up not being helpful. You made a stupid mistake, you made a stupid decision, and you got yourself into real trouble. Like for me, marrying my now ex-wife. If I were to go back, I would have told myself, no, in fact, what you ought to do is keep dating that hot lawyer, and she would have been a much better choice. Whatever. I don't know. She might have been horrible too. I don't know. But I have a lot of answers that I would tell myself. And so obviously, if I could go back and tell myself what to do differently in those situations, I would. So that's important to know, because when we think about our higher self, how do we tap into them? It might be very easy to think that your future self is just involved and doesn't want to, I don't got time for that. That was my past. I don't want to deal with that. But you right now, if you would go back to your, when you were younger, and give yourself advice if it meant that it was going to change your life and make you happier. So think of it this way. Imagine if you could go back and talk to yourself in the past and give yourself advice that you now know would have been a better choice. And knowing that if you did that, it would change your present. It's just like those time travel movies where they go back in time and, they don't do this or they do that one thing, and then they magically, and then they're back in their present self. And, instead of living in a really crappy house, you're in this big mansion and you're super rich and successful. Right? So you would benefit from that if you went back in time and gave yourself information. Now imagine you go back in time. You would have to convince yourself. This is the hard part. And you see this in the movies too. You have to go back in time and convince your previous self that this is in fact real and you are your future self, and that not only that, but you can trust me. Trust me, I know I was there. And I like the movies that I think have a very realistic thing written into it, where the past self doesn't trust the future self or wants to fight with the future self. I think that's very realistic, because I think that's what we would do that. So bear in mind, your future self can't just impose all of this knowledge on you without your permission. But if your future self were able to communicate with you now about things you could do right now, this second, that would improve your life, it would benefit them. So they want to. So that is another rule to put in there, because then if you know that your future self is wanting to help you, that your future self would benefit from helping you, if you know that, then you know that if you ask, your future self will absolutely come to your aid. But that you have to, number one, be willing, you have to be trusting, and you have to create that cooperative relationship. You have to do something to open up the connection. And that starts with things like gratitude and, being your best self in the moment, asking yourself, how you can improve your reactions right now, which all come back to being aware of all of your thoughts and your feelings in the moment. So, as the universe must respond to your soul-directed actions, if you've listened to me talk about the Matrix must respond positively to your fearless actions towards your soul desire. It has to. It has to give you. It has to. It's the law. Because you created it that way. So that means your future self must come to you and help you if you ask. But if you don't, nothing may happen. And again, my experience when as I continue to work with Mahadeva, and I just recently did it again, is I made an invitation. If you want to make a formal ritual out of it, where you light a candle and do a mantra or whatever it is, and then call upon your higher self, and instead of trying to envision your higher self, because that's important. I didn't do that. I didn't try and envision who Mahadeva was. You don't have to do that. That's not important. All I did was I just put out the request. And I said, future self, that part of me that is most happy and most successful, that is most fulfilled, I want your help. I surrender myself to you. I open myself to you. I invite you to come into me, to work through me, to speak through me. And nothing happened, and I got up. I didn't have any expectations about it. And as I said, an hour later, I realized that I was walking around the house with a smile on my face and feeling really hopeful. I was like, wow, that feels good. So it's a cooperation. It's a relationship. All right. So those are the 5 things. Those are some of my thoughts about it. And again, let me say the single most difficult block to anything, but especially when it comes to transformation and change, the single most difficult block to your success is habitually responding to the thoughts and emotions that arise from your narrative. What your parents taught you, what you learned about who you were before. Responding to those negative feelings and those negative thoughts. Be clear, I'm not telling you to get rid of those negative feelings or thoughts. I'm telling you not to respond to them. Because one of the biggest problems, especially now, we live in this narcissistic society. One of the biggest problems we have is that people act on every thought, every feeling, every impulse. In fact, many people don't even know that they have the option to act, not only not act on every thought or feeling or impulse, but that they can choose to act completely contrary to that. And it's extremely important that you learn what is called contrary action. Learning to consistently, when appropriate, take completely contrary action to whatever your thought or feeling or impulse is. And when you, again, using the Nauthi's rune, when you're in that state where you feel like you're trapped, but something has to change, you ask yourself, what can I do differently in this situation? What do I normally do? And what can I do different from that? And sometimes it's doing the exact opposite. And I'll share this last thing. I've shared it with you before, and then I'll shut up and see if there's any questions. But, me and my brother grew up together. He was 5 years older than me. Obviously, we grew up in the same home. I've known him. I haven't spoken with him in probably 10 years. But, I knew him for, 50 years of my life. I've seen him and known him for a long time. I know him very well. And I've watched him respond to life. And unless something's changed since I've spoken to him, which is completely possible, and I would be happy if that were the case. But unless something has changed, I have a pretty good idea what he's going to do and what he's going to say. And so when I'm in fear, I will imagine my brother, which would be an example of like you've got your future self and your past self. My brother would represent a past, less evolved version of myself. So when I'm in fear, I will bring to mind my brother, and I will ask him in my mind, what would you do in this situation? And then I listen and I hear what he would say, which would usually be something like, well, they're not going to do this for you, or nobody cares about you, and everything goes badly. And he would have a lot of really negative, victim mentality stuff he would spew out. And then I do the exact opposite. So if there's a beautiful woman and she's whatever, at the grocery store, and she's looking at the fruit, I don't know what she's doing. She's in the grocery store looking at something. And if let's say, imagine I said, wow, I feel really attracted to her. She seems really nice. I would ask my brother, what would you do? I know what he would say. He would say, oh, she's just interested in your money. You're not rich enough. You're not tall enough. And then you shouldn't talk to her. So I would go, okay. I would go do the opposite. I would go and talk to her. Doesn't guarantee that she's going to give me the time of day, but it means that I've taken an action towards getting something that I want. And the truth is that more than likely, she would respond, assuming she's single. In fact, a lot of really attractive, beautiful women say, men don't talk to me. They think that I'm unavailable. So I don't have any dates. So there you go. All right. So before I start babbling nonsensically, I'm going to go ahead and see if there are any questions. This is a question and answer. If you have a question, please write the word question in all caps, and then write your question, and I will be happy to answer it. Or if you have a feeling, write honest feeling in all caps, and then share your feeling. I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm confused, I'm hopeful, whatever it is. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, he says hello, and you can go check out him. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Do you realize how much? I mean, I could be charging him for this. You could be having this. I could be promoting you every single live stream like I do Vincent for your website. You can go to his website, vincent.thunderwizard.com. He is one of my certified Vedic astrologers, and he has a bunch of other really amazing stuff, career coaching, life coaching. He can turn water into wine, all kinds of stuff. You should go check him out. And then we have Thundra Staves Rangel. She is known as the Thunder Goddess. You can go to her website, thundra.thunderwizard.com, and she is equally amazing and has her own stuff. She is also a Vedic astrologer, among many other things. Go check them out. All right, so Vincent, you said something here in your honest feeling that YouTube didn't like, so let me click show. You say, honest feeling, today I went full psychopath. Oh, they didn't like the word psychopath. I went full psychopath and stabbed a block of clay until it was mush. I then made it a sculpture of a middle finger. I felt lighter, not sure whether to laugh or cry, mixed feelings. Why not both? You can laugh and cry. Both. The thing is about laughter and crying is it's really like a snafu in the brain. It means that there's too much emotion for the nervous system to handle, so it has to release something. So that's what laughter is, and that's what crying is. It just means there's just too much emotion, or you're overwhelmed with emotion, so something has to happen. In fact, that's why it's great, great scenes in movies where somebody will laugh hysterically and uncontrollably, and then it will shift into crying and sobbing, because that's exactly what can happen. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling, I feel like gift wrapping the sculpture and giving it to my mom. And then crying with tears emoji. I'm not going to actually do that, he says. I feel like a rebellious little child, and it feels amazing and freeing. And that's awesome. Congratulations. Good for you. Once again, Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling, I'm excited that I have a date this weekend. You serious, hardcore guy, you. I'm glad this girl actually likes me. Most of the time, I don't even like me. So it's nice to know that somebody does. Congratulations. Good work. Well, I don't see any other questions here. We've got 20 people watching. So you know how this works. If you don't ask a question, then I'm going to have to make some money here. So you see up here a link you might not have seen for a long time, which is journeys.thunderwizard.com. So just to let you know, I mean, this is my business. This channel is my business. This is how I make my income from all this, primarily what comes through this channel. Not because I make any money off of YouTube advertisements. I don't. If I'm lucky, I might make $100 a month if I'm lucky, which is nothing. And I have to tell you that it's got to be at least 99% of all of the, if you go to courses.thunderwizard.com, all the things that I put together, it was about 99% of them go nowhere. Out of all, if I took all of the efforts that I put into selling products and services, because that's what pays the bills, out of that 100% of effort, 1%, if I'm lucky, maybe 1% of all that effort pays off into something that pays my bills. We've got 2 astrologers on here that I've mentioned who get more astrology readings than I do, and it's because they promote themselves. So it's really important to understand that success comes from working at it. Now, you can't be successful at something you don't like. I would do this anyway. I mean, I'm so opinionated and I overthink everything. I have to talk about things all the time. So, even if I had, even if I was independently wealthy, or if I had a 40-hour-a-week job, I'd still come and dump my stuff onto YouTube. I just decided to make a living out of it. So those are 2 things right there that I think are important to understand. You've got to consistently put effort towards whatever it is that you want to accomplish, and you've got to love doing it. And if you don't, then you're going to end up saying, I tried being grateful, that doesn't work for me. Journeys.thunderwizard.com is one of those things that I created a while ago because on my channel, one of my most popular videos is the 5 steps to a successful shamanic journey. So I went, a lot of people watch that video. I'm going to make a video course on shamanic journey. And nothing happened. But somebody asked me this question, how do I connect to my higher self? And I realized I have a guided shamanic journey that does exactly that extremely well. So instead of me making that video all over again, I am pulling out something that I worked on very hard a while back, and it's still there that I can use to help you and also keep the lights on. And that is, go to journeys.thunderwizard.com. It's very inexpensive, and you can get that video course. And there's at least 3, and there's also a free book. I give you a free book. I don't know if it's a book or if I give you videos of me talking through my book, but that's even better. So go there, and then you can get connected to your higher self and do all this stuff that I was babbling on and on about, for the past however long it was. And the journey will help you to kickstart that project, that process on a deeper unconscious level, so you don't have to sit around trying to figure it out. All right, and of course, we've got courses.thunderwizard.com. The most powerful energetic practice in the world, in my humble opinion, is the combination of 2 things. It is the Warrior 90-Day Challenge, which if you go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge Lightning Qigong, that is a unified energy practice that uses Qi, Qigong, Kundalini from Kundalini Yoga, which has to do with your spinal column and your psychic awareness, and the lightning power of your heart center, which is normally self-contained and unavailable unless you know the precise movements that you can do to flip on that switch to open that power center. It'll give you access to this kind of power. If you really want to be the absolute ultimate most powerful sorcerer shaman in existence, here's my suggestion. Do the Warrior 90-Day Challenge along with maoshan.thunderwizard.com. I'm not hiding. There's nothing left. I'm not hiding anything. There isn't something I'm keeping in reserve. That's the most powerful combination of energy practices there is. And this stuff here is actually because this stuff was so powerful that I had to learn how to reverse engineer it so that I could teach it to people without, turning them into serious left-hand sorcerers. But some of you, if you are really serious about just a buttload of power and energy, like if you want to feel like that, combine this with this. All right. So as I babbled on, waiting to see if any more questions came up, none came up. So what I said must have been so amazing and so powerful that you have no questions. You're just ready and raring to go off and do it. So I will allow you to do that. And that's it. So again, if you have any questions for me personally, you can put a question in the video section, a comment section of any video, and address it to me. If you have a question for Mahadeva, the Ascended Master, my future self, which I'm taking a break from channeling him because, to be honest, it's kind of intense. It takes a lot out of me. So I don't want to be napping all day. So I will come back and channel him some more. But if you have a question for him and you want me to channel him and answer that question, you can leave a question for him on any video comment section. If you want to hear from Ophiuchus, the Thunder Lizard, and you can tolerate somebody who's going to come at you with some deep wisdom and some sardonic sarcasm and humor, then you can ask him a question and leave it in the comment section of any of the videos. All right, that's it, guys. I wish you all the best. I will see you all very soon. Take care.